If you follow this channel, you know that I was very interested in the release of Thrones of Britannia, but it came out to somewhat middling reviews. Creative Assembly has spent the last few months trying to fix Thrones of Britannia, but what's really changed, and what can we expect from it in the future? So to answer these questions, I'm joined today by game director Jack Lusted of Creative Assembly.
Hello, good to be back in non-Canadian animated style this time.
You know, I've been looking around the forums and I keep hearing the same stuff over and over again, that Thrones was a critical failure, a financial failure, and that CA has abandoned it.
As a game director, you never want your game to come out and have a mixed reaction. Yeah. I mean, some people have certainly loved Thrones, but there's certainly been a lot of reaction to it that hasn't been as good as we hoped for. Yeah. And, you know, with Thrones, we experimented a lot. Total's been going for 18 years, we wanted to shake things up a bit, try something different. But as a result, you know, we knew making these kind of changes, some people just aren't going to like them. Even if you get everything perfect, the choices you make aren't going to agree with everyone. And we have quite a broad fan base now, so that's the case. But to have it be mixed was not what we hoped for, and so we've been working hard in the Legions update to deliver improvements that we hope will change more people to agree that Thrones is a great game.
Yeah, and the Allegiance update, I mean, parts 1 and 2 obviously, really reads like pretty much a wish list for anybody that had any sort of complaint. Even the few middling things that I said, I mean, were addressed, which really shocked me actually, to see how invasive this update actually was.
Yeah, I mean, the key for us was that with the first patch we could address the first most obvious problems, which was people complaining that the game was too easy. You know, there was too much food, there was too much money in the game. That was quite easy to look at. And then for the Allegiance update, it was addressing concerns as best we can. So it was looking at the negative reviews we were getting, some of the more mixed stuff, and even in the positive reviews, seeing what kind of stuff people hoped we would elaborate on, and seeing what were people thinking was missing from the game or what would take it to the next level and aiming to put that in.
I noticed that you ended up taking the something similar to the Witan system from the Saxons and actually kind of applying it across the other factions as well, turning it closer to the Rites from Warhammer 2.
One of the things we certainly got from feedback was that people felt the game at times was too passive, like they were waiting for counters to tick up or just waiting for events to trigger. Having the decree system, which is based on the Rites from Warhammer 2, it meant that there was an interactive way players could choose to make a difference to their campaign right now. So that there was more of a, I want to change this instead of waiting for the change to occur.
It's definitely a lot more fun. I was playing around with it last night for a couple of minutes and seeing how the feared systems were revamped, and obviously the Burgle system was added, which a nice little throwback to the life of Alfred right there.
Yeah, I mean, with the look at the faction mechanics and feeling that the war fervor mechanic was at times interfering with the direction we're going for the different factions, with then deciding to remove war fervor, the English kingdoms needed something new, and the Burgle system felt like a way to still get that feeling of war having an impact on your kingdom, but tied into the kind of developments that Alfred did.
Yeah, I gotta say, the removal of war fervor was the one I was probably most surprised about in the patch notes, because obviously it's there to help, you know, slow the player down, you know, limit the push. But as you've already found out, when you're winning, it doesn't ever really come into play.
Yeah, and at times, you know, factions like the Viking Sea Kings, where you've got your tribute mechanic, which is encouraging you to raid and sack, you know, that's encouraging you to go to war, and then you've got this other mechanic that's saying, actually, you don't want to be at war, so...
Speaking of the Viking Sea Kings, that was the single note that really shocked me, though, which is previously you had talked about Christianity across the Isles, and now you put in a paganism mechanic.
Well, it's paganism for their kings. I think that's important. Like, we still stand by all the arguments and discussions we had pre-release around religion. You know, the Isles are mainly Christian. Where there is paganism, it's in small numbers, and the two largely coexisted alongside each other fine. Having this mechanic allows a way to try and simulate or reflect the reality of when the Viking Sea King factions, who seem to be the last to convert, might have done so historically. So as they're expanding, taking more lands where there are Christian power structures, when they might have chosen to convert themselves.
I think it's a great compromise between the two you came up with there, because I mean, there's no reason to have a full-blown religion system in this period. As you said previously, it just, you know, religious inner turmoil was not quite the what you were going for here.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with so much evidence in this time period of how quickly Christianity became part of like the great Viking army factions. You know, Guthrum was baptized by Alfred. Within a few decades, both East Anglia and Northumbria were producing coins dedicated to Christian martyrs. You know, Northumbria gave land to priests devoted to St. Cuthbert. You know, they're not exactly the actions of very pagan people anymore. They're people who have at least embraced the Christian power structures, if perhaps still having a more mixed view of their own personal religion.
So I will admit, this particular game actually encouraged me to read The Life of Alfred by Asser, and there is so much detail in this game in historical research. You can really feel the love.
Yeah, it was something. It's nice. Like, not everyone's going to notice that kind of detail, but it helps add to the flavour of the period. It tells you that it's a different age, and that there's all these little details there that have been thought through that we've put into the game itself.
And of course, there was also the hidden Loch Ness monster, which I was fortunate enough to find.
Yes, that was something one of our artists insisted had to be in the game, and I thought was a nice one. It was we have a closed group of players who help test our games, and they came in to help test Thrones pre-release, and I wondered if any of them would notice it, and apparently they noticed it very quickly just by chance, which is like, damn, our big Easter egg spotted straight away. But it took a while before anyone in the live game, I think, properly posted it. Oh no, it was your preview video, wasn't it, where someone noticed Loch Ness?
Yeah, that was me. Sorry. Yeah, I got assigned the Sea King, so I was already up in Scotland tooling around anyway, and it just happened to get lucky. So last time I spoke to you, I'm going to just admit to you really quick that you mentioned Yams Vikings. I had no idea what Yams Vikings are.
Yeah, never mention the fact you never heard them to Scandinavians, they won't like you. We have a Swedish designer here who is very much coming down and going, you have Yams Vikings in the games, yes? There have to be Yams Vikings. And it's nice to show a way that the invading Viking factions are different to the ones who've already settled in the Isles.
Yeah, and the invasion mechanic is probably, I think, the thing that Thrones will be remembered about for the longest time. You know, obviously doing something very different there with the ultimate victory.
I think we're certainly seeing more people get through the victory conditions in Thrones than in previous historicals. With Attila and the long wait there is for the until the final chapters happen, I think a lot of players chose to end their campaigns before they got to that date. With Thrones, with the way we've gone for the short and long conditions and the making them much more on the decisions of the player, I think we're seeing a lot of people get through them and then get to the ultimate.
You added short campaign victories, and I was a big fan of these back in the Medieval 2 Total War. And I have to say that the short campaigns in Thrones feel really good. I was surprised just how many good battles I had in there. Yeah,
I think now, especially with the Allegiance update, where we've varied some of the conditions for the short victories with additional region requirements for the Fame ones or tweaking the number of regions required, I think they're getting to a good pace that it's generally, around 100 turns in you'll get a short, and then 150 to 200 turns you'll get your long. That's certainly what we're trying to aim for.
And I noticed originally you were saying that you were looking for about 15-minute battles, and you've had to tweak some of the stats to try and to slow the battles down a little.
Yeah, I mean, the duration of battles is a really tricky one to get right, because you have to try and extend the duration of the combat without making battles feel like they're dragging on. Like, a popular thing back in the day used to be just massively increasing morale values in mods to make the battles last longer, but that of course reduces the effectiveness of flanking, reduces the effectiveness of killing enemy generals. So you have to try and do a combination of things. You look at the distance the two armies deploy away from each other, how fast units walk and run, how quickly combat between units from the front lasts, how damaging missiles are. You've got to try and balance all of those to get the right length. And I think with Thrones we've reached a good balance where we're getting the length of combat we want, that, shield unit versus shield unit from the front lasts a long time, but that the overall battles can still have decisive moments that turn them in the player's favour.
So based on that, I don't think we're ever going to see a return of the shield wall button in Thrones as a future update.
No, I mean, I think the way we've gone for it in Thrones, where it's just the automatic behaviour of units, with the animations, their density, it's far better and reflects the warfare of the period much better than having a button that people would have to click on. Shield wall
like
was
you said,
how
it was
people
like
fought.
The default way of fighting, so why have to toggle the default every time?
Exactly.
So this will release alongside your announcement for the Blood DLC. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the Blood DLC, Blood, Sweat and Spears, as we've called it. We do like our pun names here at Creative Assembly.
I was wondering if it was going to be like the Bloody Good DLC or something like that.
No, blood, sweat, and spears. So it features, blood animations in battles, decapitations, extra blood graphics. We've also put in some new bloody event picks for appropriate occasions, and we've also added in a thing where the unit cards in campaign and battle will be bloodied, depending on how damaged your unit is, just to add to the flavour of things.
Yeah, I was wondering, because you guys have done Blood DLCs obviously previously, but every one's slightly different from the others.
Yes, we've released Blood DLCs many times before, but each time we like to ensure there's something new and fresh for people to enjoy. And as said, it is free for people who own the Attila Blood and Burning pack as well.
For me, this is actually the first Total War game that I've ever made official mods for. Got in, really had a great time with it, and I'm looking forward to the release of the Assembly Kit. So any update on when that's going to release?
That will release alongside the full release of Blood, Sweat and Spears and the Allegiance update on the 29th.
Awesome. Super excited about that.
Yeah, we did put out a beta alongside the second update of the Allegiance update. Unfortunately, there were some problems with the tools, so we pulled that back and have solved all those problems, so it's ready to go live on the 29th.
Can we expect something like the Allegiance update in the future? Obviously you're really focused on getting this out right now. But are there other things that you really want to take another crack at?
I think the Allegiance update addresses most of what people were concerned with, or what people were hoping would be fleshed out more, and so we're going to see how people react to that first.
That's pretty much everything I have. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me again, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course, always a pleasure.
And that is my interview with Jack Lusted. It definitely answered some of the questions I had. So stay tuned, and as always, thanks for watching.